Certainly, the Disney Board of Directors is in a bit of a fight right now, and unfortunately, it's not looking good for the likes of, say, Bob Iger, as one of the biggest shareholders in the Disney company is setting the bullseye on Iger's back as the reason for so many problems right now in the Walt Disney Company. Obviously, Bob Iger returning to the organization last year in an attempt to right the ship, his words, and bring that legacy of Walt Disney's company back after a pretty tumultuous time during Bob Iger's short retirement. He has since returned, obviously, and things, even with cuts, have not necessarily gotten as good as they should be, at least in the eyes of this activist investor. Nelson Peltz is his name. One of the biggest investors in the Walt Disney Company. Not only has he nominated himself to be a board member, now the Walt Disney Organization, he is bringing with him another nominee, a blast from the past, former Disney CFO, former Disney Parks Chief, Jay Rasulo, as another member of the board he would like to have nominated. Garrett, things are heating up again around the Disney Board of Directors, and now not only does the activist investor Nelson Peltz nominate himself for consideration, he's bringing that former Disney CFO Jay Rasulo as a nominee as well, which clearly indicates an alliance between the two. Where do you see this going?
Well, heating up is, I think that might even be too subtle. Things are on literal fire. It's like you're on the end of Toad's Wild Ride. Like, it's really warm. This can go a number of ways. Like, the job of the board is to ensure that the company is providing profits for the stakeholders, shareholders, and all that, have money involved in the grand business. And if they aren't delivering, then, things need to change, because then you have a lack of faith, and then it can just go down, a quick spiral. I honestly can see them getting the 2 seats. I could. They control $3 billion worth of stocks, which is a lot. Like, when the stocks are, less than $100, that's a lot of voting power right there. And they could, get their seats and get things going. I like that he has brought on a former Disney leader, because, he knows how Disney works. Jay, he's done it before. He was Parks and Chairman. He was there before Tom Staggs was, and he knows the Disney brand. And I don't think he would ever want to see Disney, crumble into pieces or be split apart. So I like him bringing it on there, because I think just Nelson alone might be a little dangerous. But I could see them getting the 2 seats easily and wanting to change things up, because the shareholders, they want the company to be overly profitable. I know he has some bad blood with Bob Iger, but I can't see him being like, if we get the spots, we're firing Bob. Like, he's only got 1 year left in his contract. Like, might as well let him finish, so you give time to find the next CEO. But it should be, a thing of work for the current board members, because if they're not delivering, they're going to be in hot water. And when a vote comes, some of those people might be out. Disney, of course, will say, we don't want these people in. We like where we are. And that's because, they're in the place of leadership. So we just have to see how it goes. I'm very curious and excited to see what happens, whether it happens or not, because this could be a wake-up call for the board to be like, listen, we got to change some things around, or it's, listen, we can survive the storm, or there's going to be a complete shift. Either way, as a shareholder myself, hey, I only got a few, but I'm curious to see what happens. I really am excited. I wish that Nelson and Jay would put out some ideas of what they want to bring to the company, like some specifics. But I'm sure if they did that, then the board could just take it and then revolutionize it in their own way. So, yeah, this is sort of like a Game of Thrones sort of battle, where it's a game of chess. Who's going to make the final move? When's it going to come? Where's the twist and turn? So we will just have to wait and see. But in the meantime, I got my popcorn ready, and it's going to be a show with some fireworks.
You talked about succession planning there. That's one of the reasons why they're so fired up. They feel like there isn't any really going on, and that as many times, we saw this before Bob Iger departed the first time. How many different individuals did they groom, and then the board at the 11th hour was like, not our guy. No, we're not going with you as CEO. And I kept extending Iger. Well, It's happening again. The Trian Company, which Nelson Peltz is affiliated with, put out this statement saying Disney is one of the most iconic companies in the world with unrivaled scale, unparalleled customer loyalty, impeccable intellectual property. However, Disney has woefully underperformed its peers and its potential. For shareholders, this subpar performance has destroyed value. Disney stock has underperformed the stocks of Disney self-selected proxy peers and the broader market over every relevant period during the last decade and during the tenure of each non-management director. Furthermore, it has underperformed since Bob Iger was first appointed CEO in 2005, a period during which he served as CEO and executive chairman, directing the company's creative endeavors in this role for all but 11 months. Disney shareholders were once over $200 billion wealthier than they are now. Unfortunately, the board and CEO appear to have no conviction that things will get better. The non-management directors collectively own less than $15 million of Disney stock, and Mr. Iger has sold the vast majority of his ownership stake, built up by primarily through share-based compensation, more than $1 billion of Disney stock, leaving shareholders alone to face the daunting reality of a complex turnaround in a rapidly evolving industry, close quote. Taylor, what are the odds we see former Disney CFO Jay Rasulo as a contender for CEO? On the flip side of that, though, what will the legacy of Bob Iger look like once this second run as chief executive is over?
I can definitely see Jay running for CEO. I really can. I think he did a lot of good things as CFO for the company. And I think he has a good head on his shoulders. And because he does believe in the original dream of Disney and like the aspects of it. So I think him being a CEO, he actually could bring a lot of what is falling short in the company right now back to life. Now, Bob Iger, I think he came back out of his short retirement, but he definitely bit off more than he could chew. He came back at a really bad time. And so I think he's getting blamed for a lot of things, which is unfortunate, but that's what happens when you're in charge. Also, some of the things that he says, that's not the smartest thing for a CEO to do. But I think that his legacy is going to be, that he brought animation back, that he was able to, bring somewhat of the Disney lifestyle back to life, but I think a lot of people are not going to like him right at the moment. And when he finally does depart ways, I think people are going to go, thank you, goodbye, you did great, but on to the next one. So that's what I'm thinking is going to happen.
Well, I mean, we'll see. I definitely am concerned that, if Bob Iger is not questioning his return at this point, he might be just completely arrogant, because no doubt at this point in time he is dealing with all kinds of drama, and it's not looking good for him as the leader. I think he thought he could come back in and
save the day.
Yeah, I think there was this idealistic view that he was going to be able to show up and fix things potentially overnight, that he himself, he alone could buck the trend that was going on and help to right the ship. And it just hasn't quite happened yet. Mixed with that, all of the political woes of the company, alienating a good portion of their audience and driving all kinds of people away from the product, especially under Bob Chapek. Iger said, we want to get away from that. We don't want to be that anymore. And yet, if you pay attention, they're still actively involved in a lot of those things, including still fighting in Florida. They just got quiet about it, but it's all happening still. There's still a continuous pushback in the realms that he said, we're getting away from that. It didn't go away. And so I don't know necessarily if he has a true plan other than, this major round of cuts that he did this prior year. Maybe he thought that would help right the ship and that would fix everything.
Yeah.
We're not fixed yet as a company. And I think about Jay Rasulo. So Jay Rasulo, for those folks that don't know, was being groomed to be Disney CEO at one point. He was in line for it. That was the plan. And the board passed on him. Enter Tom Staggs, who we all thought was going to be CEO. The board passed on him. Jay Rasulo coming back. According to the New York Times, Jay Rasulo is saying, I have no intention of trying to become CEO. I just want to be a board of directors because I know this place. I love this place. He was an Eisner era hire all the way back to the 80s when Eisner first arrived. He was a strategic person initially, and then grew into more chief executive type roles as the company grew from that point forward. But I think it's also important to notate that this is my own experience with them. As long as I worked with Disney, I witnessed this man, as chairman of Parks and Resorts, visit the parks twice over the course of an 8-year period.
That's what you want, and it's in a parks chairman right there.
I mean, he wasn't Disney Parks chief the entire time, but over an 8-year period, he only visited twice when he was Disney Parks chairman, and he had an entourage of photographers with him to document the experience, to show that he was there.
He's here.
Yeah, had a group of yes men that followed him everywhere. Very unlike what we see with, say, a Josh D'Amaro of today, who shows up and runs around on his own and checks in with cast members directly. Jay Rasulo, you wouldn't catch that guy talking directly to a cast member unless there was a camera there to catch it. That was the experience that I had with him. And it always put a bad taste in my mouth when I thought about the guy, because I thought, he's all show. He clearly wants to be somewhere else. He doesn't really care about these parks. He's showing it in every action that he does within the park walls when he shows up. And it always put that bad taste in my mouth. So now he's back. Now he wants a board seat. You didn't make him CEO before, which I always thought, oh, thank God, because I always preferred Tom Staggs to begin with. I always thought Tom Staggs was going to be a stellar CEO, and then they passed on him too. So the board of directors, they too have had, I think, a lot of problematic contributions to the last 10 years. I think they too have been activists on their own. I think they too have created a lot of the problems that we see by not having succession planning, by passing on what seemed to be very qualified people at different points. And now we're still stuck with the Iger show. And yes, it's better than the Chapek show, but not by much anymore. And I think that is my concern about the Iger legacy, is that I think he thought he'd come back and save the day, and his time, the goodwill that he had built up, is quickly running out because time is running out, and he's not righted the ship yet. So we'll see. He's still got a little bit of time left, but my goodness, things are tense in the Disney organization, and we will see what happens with Nelson Peltz and Jay Rasulo in this board fight now. You let us know in the comments, where do you think the board of directors are going? How do you think this pans out for the Walt Disney Company? Again, drop it in the comments.